What is up, listeners of the Didn't Ask podcast? Welcome back, or welcome if this is your first time to the Didn't Ask podcast. As always, I'm your host Djimon, and today I will be diving back into the world of Reddit to see what the people asked Reddit and didn't ask me. How is everybody doing? I hope everybody had a good week, had a great weekend. I had a great weekend. At least it was a fun weekend. So this weekend there were no Formula One races, which kind of sad. But luckily there is one this weekend. We're going to Mexico, if I say so correctly from the top of my head. So last weekend was a bit of a resting weekend. We got to gain some composure, so to speak. Get a couple of days off. Don't have to fucking stay up all night to watch Formula One. But there was a UFC event, and a big one at that. We had Hamza Chimaev, we had Glover Teixeira, Dan Hooker. Like, there were some big names on the card, and we're gearing up for another event this weekend, live from New York, which crazy to think that they're doing such big events back to back. But last weekend it was great because the fight card was from Abu Dhabi. It was live, so I mean, it's always live, realistically speaking. But normally, for me, the times are always like a bit iffy because it's 9 out of 10 times it's like at 3 in the night or 4 at night, and I'm not gonna stay up till that time, and I'm not gonna wake up for that fight. I'll just watch it the next day. But this weekend, because it was in Abu Dhabi, it started at like 8 our time, which was absolutely fantastic. So I got to watch the event live and saw Glover Teixeira win his first UFC title after 20 years in the industry, which is fucking crazy to think that a 42-year-old man just became the champion. So that's absolutely fucking cool. Well, again, this is not a UFC podcast, but maybe that would be a good fucking thing to do next year. Who knows? Who knows? We see where the future takes us. No, 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 no. For now, this still and will always be a Reddit podcast. So let's jump into the first question of the Ask Reddit subreddit. And this one coming from user Furious Cumsock 14. And I should have read that before I was reading that out loud, but okay. They ask, what is considered normal by the American folk but incredibly weird for the rest of the world? I was thinking about this a little bit, and the thing that I find the most interesting is tailgating. Because tailgating, I feel like, is only being done in the US, maybe a little bit in Canada as well, but I don't think so necessarily. And it's such a weird thing. I just don't really understand why tailgating is a thing. From what I understand is that some stadiums in the US don't allow drinking, and therefore they do tailgating in the parking lot so you can drink all your beers and your liquors and whatever fuck before you go to the game, and then have a good time at the game. But it's such a weird thing to think that people go to a football event or whatever and then wait in a parking lot to drink themselves basically half to death and then go to a game. That doesn't seem normal to me. And the fact is that, yeah, in the Netherlands, and from the most places I've been, you can just get beers and stuff. So I don't really understand why tailgating is a thing. I just don't really understand it. I'm gonna look this up after the podcast because thinking about it now and just saying these words out loud, it makes me more confused. Like, why is tailgating such an inherent US thing? Why do Americans do this? Why do I always see videos of people tailgating and hear about tailgating? What is tailgating precisely? Why are we doing that? Why are you doing it? I should say, why are you doing it? I'm not doing it. We just get beers from the fucking stadium. I don't care. So yeah, Furious Cumsuck 14. Fuck your name. What is considered normal by the American folk, but incredibly weird for the rest of the world? And I would say that's tailgating. It's just weird that people go to a venue very early to start drinking and then go to the event itself. Seems fucking weird to me. But thank you, anyways, for your question, Furious Mr. Shock. Moving on to the second question of the Ask Reddit subreddit for today, and this one coming from user Djimon, and they ask, "What's the worst attempt at an accent you've ever heard in a movie or TV show?" I kind of want to flip this question on its head a little bit because it's not that the thing is what I am very interested in the movie Last Night in Soho. So I've been seeing commercials on YouTube and on TV and whatever for that movie. And for some sort of reason, one of the actresses has such an British accent that sounds so fake. And it is so funny to me because every time you hear the commercial, you hear the girls go, "I don't know. I just went to the bathroom and I saw a girl standing there like she's from the 60s." And for some sort of reason, that accent just so funny to me. And I don't know why that is, but it is so fucking hilarious that every time I think that it is a fake accent, and I don't believe it is, but it sounds so dramatic and so overly done that it sounds like a fake accent. So that would be basically my answer to this because the accent is so fucking weird. But when I saw this question, I was actually thinking about the opposite side of the spectrum where people have really good accents in TV shows. And this came to mind when I was watching DC Fandom last week. No, not last week, 2 weeks ago, I guess, at this time. It was like I think it was like 2 weeks ago where DC does the fandom thing where they dive into their TV shows, their movies, their games, like everything that's upcoming that has to do with DC. And in there were a couple of actors that were in like TV shows or movies, and they would just talk normally, as a normal person would do. But that showed me that oh my god, all these there are basically in every DC show there is at least one person that is actually British but does an American accent, and I had no idea about it. And that was just something that was so weird to me where John Jones in Supergirl, I don't know what the actor's name is. I do fairly apologize for that. He does an American accent in the show, and I believe he's also in Call of Duty and is like a commander or some shit in the games and has an American accent in that too. And then when he started talking in Vendome, he just had an English accent, and I was like, this motherfucker is English? How the fuck did I not notice? So yeah, that would be the answer to your question, Bungie man. What's the worst attempt at an accent you've ever heard in a movie or TV show? And again, the worst would be the Last Night in Soho actress, which again, I don't think she does a fake accent, but for some sort of reason, it just sounds absolutely ridiculous to me, and it just makes me laugh every time. And then again, flipping the question kind of on its head, that some actors have a really good accent, making it fucking weird for me to hear them speak normally. And again, John Jones from Supergirl is one of them. So thank you for your questions, Bungie Man. Moving on to the third question of the Ask Reddit subreddit for today, and this one coming from user Godfather Doe. And they ask, if a person tells you angrily to go back to your country, how would you respond? I would say, I'm already here. Because that's the funny thing. I am half Mozambique? I don't fucking know. What the fuck is that? Huh. That's an interesting thing to think about. I have never thought about that. What it would be in English. I'm gonna look that up. So it is Mozambican. Huh. That's interesting. So I am half Mozambican and half Dutch, but both my parents were born in the Netherlands and I was born here as well, which means that I don't know anything else than the country I grew up in. And luckily, I have not had to deal with people that yelled at me to go back to my own country. Probably because I have a college degree. Like I went to the University of Applied Sciences in Amsterdam, so I got my degree. I finished school, like everything, like, and I got a job now, luckily. So I feel like, and I talk without an accent most of the time. Again, sometimes I like to go into certain accents, or it just kind of feels more comfortable to talk in a different accent with certain friends of mine, which always sounds weird. I've had this conversation in the past, and sometimes it's really weird to think about it, that sometimes you just have like a different accent or a different tone of voice with certain people, but I do have that with certain friends of mine. But yeah, if a person would tell me to go back to my country, I would just explain, like, hey, motherfucker, I'm probably more Dutch than you are. I was born here. Both of my parents were born here. Sometimes the people that you see and think that, oh, those are people, like, those are like natives. Sometimes even have like different upbringings or were born in different countries and stuff like that. Because that's the funny thing, that I had a friend in middle school, and he was like basically the whitest dude you fucking see. He was like blonde, blue eyes, white guy, pasty white skin, whatever. And then at school we were talking about being like native, and when you are native and when you are like immigrant or whatever, you name it. But he is like the whitest person you ever know, and you think that, oh yeah, he's Dutch. He is the antithesis of Dutch. And surprisingly, his mother was born in Spain, which made him technically like son of an immigrant, because his mom had like a Spanish passport, even though I believe his grandparents are Dutch, but like she was born there and therefore he is the son of an immigrant. And I was like, that's kind of funny to think that the brown guy in class is technically not the son of an immigrant and you are, while you are the, like, again, the blue eyes, blonde hair, white guy. So yeah, going back to the question asked by Godfather Doe, if a person tells you angrily to go back to your country, how would you respond? And I would just say, man, I'm already here. Because this is all I know, and it's all I will ever know. Probably. And probably more than you know. You fucking piece of shit. Thank you for your question, Godfather Doe. Jumping right into the fourth question of today, coming from the user epic underscore stongs. And they ask, do some people really want religion to die out? Why or why not? Religion is such an interesting thing to think about, and I've talked about religion on this podcast many times in the past. And once again, saying that I am not religious, but there is something in me that really wants religion to die out, in the sense that religion is being used for technically for both good and bad, but the religion part is also like a shield for certain people. And again, that could be a good shield or a bad shield. By taking that religion shield away, we now talk about a person and what the intentions of a person are. Because, especially in the Middle East, there are a lot of things happening that aren't good for people as a whole, or at least from our point of view, that get blamed on religion or, religious beliefs and stuff like that. By taking that away, you can just say, like, oh, these people are actually pieces of shit because XYZ. But now we have that thing where they hide behind the fact that religion is what they want to believe in, and that what they want to control their life by or live their life by. And that sometimes is really hard to get that connection or that disconnect, because we've always learned that in our society there's separation between state and church, and that is, in my opinion, very important. Even though there is some bleed, in those things where you have to be sworn in on the Bible, even though technically you don't have to. But there's a lot of things where, I don't know, especially in the US, I feel like this is a big thing where, yeah, you need to swear on the Bible or I solemnly swear on whatever the fuck. And there are certain things that bleed over in each other. But for the most part, yeah, I am a big believer that religion can do good, but for the most part, we have seen religion do bad throughout history. And not only that's not only Islam, it's also the Catholic Church and Judaism. And there are so many parts where either to religion is being used as a weapon or as a means to victimize somebody. And again, for Judaism, that of course we had the Second World War where Hitler tried to eradicate all the Jews, and that again made them the point of contention at that time just because of their religion. So if we wouldn't have religion, it would have been a completely different story to what we have now and what history has taught us. So going back to the question asked by epic_stonks, do some people really want religion to die out? Why or why not? And it's to me, it's just like I don't really want to say that religion has to die out and that it should disappear forever, but I do think that religion is being used as a shield to stand behind. And again, sometimes that could be a good thing, but most of the times it is a bad thing because especially now, and this coming to me like this shits in my head right now talking about this. But right now we still are living in the corona pandemic times, and there are so many measures that are being put in place for people to not come together. We're not allowed to do parties. We're not allowed to go to cinemas, or at least full cinemas, and we're not allowed to go to theater shows and you name it. But then in the laws that we have, there is a special clause for religion, which states that religious beliefs go basically above the law, which again, should be a separation between church and state, but there clearly isn't, and there is a bleed in there. But again, because this is speaking about all religion, there is some, plain battleground too. But yeah, so saying that is that there are so many measures in place for corona that a normal person like you and I, we, or like normal, like a plain person, I should say, not normal, because just a plain person, so a person that doesn't have beliefs or whatever, we are getting held accountable for this. So we're not allowed to do parties, we're not allowed to go to certain events or you name it. But then on the other side, you have religious parties like the Catholic Church or a Islam mosque that get filled with people more than is allowed in like the grand scheme of things just because it is religion. And again, for me, that's like a shield that you're using your religion as, which is not positive for most of the other people, because you're saying that, or the government is saying that, hey, the corona pandemic is getting worse, or at least, it's really bad. So we are deciding to put mandates in place to mitigate the effects of corona. So again, I am fine with that, even though it is intruding on some of my joys in life and some of the things that I feel, make my life better, like going to a movie theater. But then on the other hand, you have motherfuckers in church fucking stuck to the brim with 200 people singing the religious songs of Jesus Christ. And then I'm just like, how the fuck are they allowed to fill a church with 200 people, close the doors, and sing out loud, while I am not allowed to go to a movie theater with 50 people and everybody sits in their own place and doesn't say anything because it's a movie theater? And certain things like that, I just feel like religion, again, is a certain shield and gives you a certain power that I don't feel is fair for others that don't have religion and have to live in worse situations, so to speak. So again, going back to the question asked by Epic underscore Stonks, do some people really want religion to die out? Why or why not? Personally, I don't necessarily want religion to die out, but I feel like if religion dies out, we do have a better way of keeping people more accountable instead of saying, oh, this was God's will or this is what God wants or you name it. Thank you for your question. It was a pretty long answer to the question, but it should be, comprehensive. Like it should make sense that I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. Moving on to the final question of the Ask Reddit subreddit for today, and this one coming from user Rixt Ann, and they ask, "What is your comfort movie?" For me, I have a couple comfort movies, and I think I've mentioned this on the podcast many times before, but I really love La La Land, and it's a movie I basically watch every year. I saw the movie in theaters, fell in love, bought the soundtrack, still loved it after listening to the soundtrack multiple times, then bought the Blu-ray, like the super ultra deluxe Blu-ray set that has like the Blu-ray, the DVD, the CD, it has everything. And man, I just love that movie. And it's been a while since I've watched it. I think it's been over a year now since I've watched La La Land. But I sometimes still listen to the music, and it's such a special movie for me that somehow it I don't know why, but it just struck such a chord with me, that movie, that it just feels good to go back to it sometimes and just listen to the songs and sing with the songs. And there are so many cool things that happen in that movie that it just makes it so special. So yeah, I get actually like a very nice feeling from the inside when I'm thinking about La La Land. So that would be one of the answers. The other answer would also be Hamilton, the musical. Again, I love musicals, and it's something I go back to often with stuff like La La Land or Hamilton or High School Musical, you name it. But Hamilton is such a cool concept, and the way that Lin Manuel Miranda did that and made Hamilton a thing is so cool. And just the story behind the fact that it's a story about the first Americans who were immigrants, but then that story being told by immigrants and sons of immigrants and daughters of immigrants. And I feel like that concept is so fucking cool, and it shows how in certain interpretations of the past, don't necessarily need, every person to be precisely the way that they should look, because we now have, like a black George Washington, and we have a Mexican Hamilton and stuff like that. And it's such a cool thing. And then that combined with the more, urban style of musical songs makes that Hamilton is such a it's such a welcoming story, and it's a story about overcoming your past and overcoming prejudice and people putting you down just because you're an immigrant. And yeah, it's such a cool story and such a cool movie for that matter. So Rixt Ann, what is your comfort movie? And I would say one would be La La Land, and the second would be Hamilton, the musical, the movie, whatever fuck you want to call it. Because both struck such a chord with me in different ways, and both have amazing music that you can sing along with and, enjoy every moment of it. Thank you for your question. And now, moving to the final question of today, and this one coming, of course, if you know, you know, coming from the MIDSO subreddit, and this one coming from MIDSO Penis Cake. It's a throwaway account. And they ask, am I the asshole for getting my wife a penis-shaped cake? Throwaway because my wife uses Reddit. I, a 34 male, was gearing up to celebrate my 10th anniversary with my wife, 31 female. I had an entire night planned out, like we were going to be trying lobsters for the first time. Here is where the conflict arises with the cake. I've always wanted to do a penis shaped cake since I thought it was funny, but I didn't know how my wife would react. However, since it was our 10th anniversary, I figured she would be used to my crude sense of humor. I went ahead and got a cake a couple of days in advance and put it in our fridge. However, my wife snuck a peek and was not pleased. She got really mad at me and accused me of trying to ruin our special night. I thought that was ridiculous, but she's been mad at me ever since. Apparently, she spoke with her family about it and they have been blowing up my phone ever since. They're mostly conservative Mormons. I still don't think I did anything wrong by trying to do something nice for her. But I realized I might be the asshole because I haven't offered to get another cake yet, since the mood is kind of ruined. Am I the asshole? And I'm gonna say, yes, you're the asshole. I think a penis cake is funny and there is a time and place for such a thing, but your anniversary is not that time. The anniversary is where you celebrate you guys. You celebrate your relationship. You're celebrating your goals in life. You're celebrating your history. And combining that with a penis cake, that's just not smart, my dude. So I did not something similar, but in a similar ballpark for my mom. So my mom turned 50 this year. And because of that, she kept saying that, oh man, I want Lewis Hamilton, the Formula One driver, to jump out of a cake and celebrate my birthday. Of course, I cannot get Lewis Hamilton. I don't know the guy. He's probably very expensive to, get here. So what I did was I made one of those picture cakes and put a picture of Lewis Hamilton, a shirtless Lewis Hamilton on it, and my mom loved it. She thought it was fucking absolutely funny, and the cake was good as well, which of course helps. But again, she turned 50. It was her day, and again, she said beforehand that she wanted to have Lewis Hamilton jump out of a cake. So she kind of gives some indications that she was kind of down for this joke. So when I did it, I was totally confident, and she, like I said, she loved it. Going back to the Reddit post, you're doing this on your anniversary. Again, this is the moment where you celebrate your wife. And giving your wife a penis-shaped cake is just fucking weird, man. At that time. Again, you celebrate you guys' journey together. And by giving her a penis-shaped cake, it seems that you're not taking this relationship serious. Her parents being, or her family being Mormon and very conservative, that of course could be part of it. But I just don't think that this was the opportune moment for you to get a penis-shaped cake. If you would have done this on her birthday or something like that, where it's just like, hey, it's your birthday, I bought you a cake, la la la, this is funny, then I think you could have still gotten away with it. But doing it on your anniversary, that's just not a smart thing to do. So I would say, yeah, you are the asshole. And that has been it for the Didn't Ask podcast for this week. I hope you had a good time. If you did, please leave a rating on Apple Podcast. If you do, I might see your rating and will read the review on the podcast if you write one. This podcast is available on all platforms, but if you really want to go to the website, you can find that at anchor.fm/didn't-ask-pod. Over here, you can also find the messages button and send me a personal message with your question. If you press that button, you get the opportunity to speak a message to me personally so I can play that in the podcast and answer your question live on air. If you don't want your voice to be heard because you want to stay anonymous, I can completely understand that. Just say that up front, then I will just read out your question myself, and I will still read that question out for you, so you don't have to hear your own voice on the podcast. I will be back next week, and in the meantime, you can be seeing what I am seeing thanks to Tracked.tv. It's a very fun website where it shows you all the TV shows and movies that I'm watching so you can watch them along with me. Well, that's gonna be fully it for me for now. I will be back next week, so I'll see you then. Bye.